Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of the life of household devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. We were looking into the life of Ramachandra Datta. We had already completed it to some extent. We'll continue from where we had left in the last. Sri Ramakrishna had said to Ramachandra Datta, "Those who serve the devotees serve me." So Ramachandra Datta strictly observed this commandment of the master, serving the followers of Sri Ramakrishna with great devotion until the end of his life. He used to say, "He who calls on Sri Ramakrishna is my nearest relative." His wife, Krishna Prayasi, was also very devout. She cheerfully helped her husband in his spiritual path. Ramachandra Datta, furthermore, had heard Sri Ramakrishna cautioning the devotees about money. Here is a very important advice of Sri Ramakrishna about earning money and spending money. So, all the devotees or anybody for that sake should give mind to this wonderful teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. So, what is that wonderful teaching of Sri Ramakrishna about earning money? Just as water under a bridge is constantly flowing, and as a result, it never becomes stagnant and foul. So, also the money earned by a real devotee should be spent for a noble cause rather than be accumulated. Isn't it wonderful teaching? So practical. Ramakrishna is telling, yes, you have to earn money, you can earn money, householders have all the rights to earn money, but you have to take care of it. By giving the example, he tells, just as the water under the bridge is constantly flowing, when the water is constantly flowing, bahata pani, it will be very fresh and good and it will not stagnate. But instead, if it stays at one place, you can see the water will get absorbed into the ground or it will start stagnating and it will give out foul smell and also stench. That's why, similarly, comparing this type of flowing water to the money earned by the devotees, Sri Ramakrishna is telling, so also the money earned by a real devotee should be spent for a noble cause rather than be accumulated. You have to spend it for the service of the poor, the needy, the society, the country, giving it to the hospital, giving it to the educational purposes, giving it to the poor, feeding the poor. So these are the wonderful service you can do by the money you have earned. It is not for your personal luxury. Yes, you can enjoy your life to some extent, but that should not be the summum bonum of your life. Yes, to some extent it's okay. But most of the time, most of the money you have to spend in charity. Then that will be the thing which will really protect you. Recently, I had heard a small story in which a rich man was advised by a devotee that whatever money you have earned, you have to spend it to the poor people. You have to spend it on charity. He was a little upset. He was just enjoying his life with that money. Now, he was not happy with that teaching. He was telling, why can't I enjoy my money? Then the saint told, you cannot carry it to the other side. After you die, you have to leave everything here. So spend it in charity. He was not satisfied. He became perturbed. He got disturbed, and he was asking everybody, now I have to carry the money I have earned, the wealth I have earned, wherever I go, even after my death. Is there anybody who can teach me? He went on asking many people. Nobody could give him a correct answer. There was one gentleman who was a wise man, a man of wisdom. So he told him, I can give you the solution. So the rich man was very happy. So what is the solution? He told, my dear friend, when you go to a foreign country, will the currency of your country work there? No. What will you do? You have to exchange. The currency, suppose the currency of South Africa is rands. Suppose you go to India, suppose you go to Germany, suppose you go to England or America, you have to convert that into that particular currency. Suppose you go to America, you have to convert into dollars. Then only you can use it. Likewise, that man of wisdom told this rich man, if you have to take your wealth, you have to take your money earned to the world after you die, wherever you go. Then you have to convert it into that particular currency of that world. So how can we convert that? What is that currency which will work in the other world too? And told that is merit, punya. So if you have punya, if you convert this wealth into punya, merit, then you can carry it wherever you go. So the man was very happy. So how to do it, how to convert it? Then this wise man told, charity, give it to the poor, give it to the needy, give it to the hungry, diseased, for the people who wants to get education. So by doing this charity, you can convert all your wealth and money into the currency or punya, merit, where that particular currency will be holding good in whichever world you go, whichever loka you go, that punya will follow you. So then the rich man was very happy with that advice. See, when we tell the people, we should tell the truth in such a way that it will be very pleasing to them, soothing to them. So it's the same truth the earlier saint told him to, but it was not to his liking. But the same truth was told to him in a different manner, in a pleasing manner, and the rich man took it. He liked it. Then he started doing a lot of charity. So now you can convert. Suppose, yes, you can convert all these things in different lokas, like up to the Swarga loka. But if you want to go to the loka like Vaikunta, Kailasa, and to the place of God, if you want to please God, then simple punya will not do. Not for the sake of enjoyment, using it somewhere in the heaven, then you have to convert it into another currency. That is, you have to do the work for the Bhagavat Pratyarthe, to please the Lord. Then the work you have done, the charity you have done, will give you an entry ticket to the world of the Lord, to the Vaikunta, to the Kailasa, to the Devi Loka, to the Goloka, to the Ramakrishna Loka. So wherever, that's why we have to constantly spend our money, our earnings, not just on the enjoyment of your family, enjoyment of yourself, luxury, pleasure trip, running here, there for the Kruger's Park, beach resorts, and other things. But the better way is to spend on charity. You get more delight, you get more happiness, which is sustainable. All the other joy, you spend your money, you spend your time, but it is short lived. After that, again, sorrow, you'll go back to this depression. But if you spend this wonderful thing as charity to please the Lord, then that will definitely take you to give you a ticket, give you an entry to the place where the Lord lives. So, Bhagavat Prityartha. If you do all your work to please the Lord, seeing God in all the human beings, if you do that, then as Ramakrishna has told, Shiva Gnane Jiva Seva. So here he is telling the same thing, and which is given to us by Ramachandra Datta. Ramachandra Datta, furthermore, had heard the master cautioning the devotees about money, just as water under the bridge is constantly flowing. As a result, it never becomes stagnant and foul. So also the money earned by the real devotee, here the term real devotee, who is seeking God and God alone. Otherwise, God is a means to an end. We want something, we want pleasure, we want heaven, we want so many other enjoyment, we want protection, so we seek God. Yes, that is also good. But a real devotee, a true devotee, Shuddha Bhakti is, I want only God, I don't want any other enjoyment, powers or miracles or any other things. I want God and God alone. So the term, the money earned by a real devotee should be spent for a noble cause rather than accumulated. Serve the poor, serve the needy, seeing your Ishtadevata in them. So the desire for, see, another caution given by Sri Ramakrishna to the devotees, especially to the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. All it applies to everybody, not only devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. So, and what is that caution? The desire for accumulation breeds the poison of attachment. So the more you accumulate wealth and money, the more it will lead to attachment, and more the trouble, the depression, the misery. That's why if you have to give up attachment, yes, the desire for accumulation, wonderful, accumulate it, not to accumulate and just watch it over, or create attachment to that, but for the sake of spending, serving, serving the devotees of the Lord. So the caution is, do not only simply develop the desire for accumulation, because it breeds attachment, poison of attachment, which is very, very dangerous. That is the root cause of many miseries. Ramachandra Datta therefore did not save his earnings. See, can you see the difference? Earlier he was a miserly man, he was stingy, he was a kanjus, and he would not spend money at all. Now by the association with Sri Ramakrishna, by the touch, the transformation can be seen. He would not save his earnings at all, but he spent money freely for the good of others, especially for the poor, the needy, and the afflicted. He helped many students financially, even to the extent of providing free board and lodging in his own house, in his own home. I've seen as a small child in my Purvashrama, that is pre monastic days. My father was a Purvashma father was a headmaster. So many students in the government school, they would be very poor. During the examination, they had to come from far off villages. So there was no facilities in those days for them to get accommodated. Then the father would make all the students to stay in the house. He used to ask the mother to prepare the food and they would be fed. He would also help all the other people to prepare the food. He would coach them, teach them, make them ready for the examination, and give them the morale. It is just more than the term can be used as a morale, but the strength of mind to write the examination, be with them, take to the examination, give them food, give them shelter, and carefully send them back to the houses. So the students would fondly remember that after many, many days afterwards. So that is very, very important. It was taught to us, it was taught to Indians. It is there in the genes of Indians. Charity, everywhere we can see that. So, but only we have, because of the Western influence, that accumulation and spending, the credit card and debit card culture. You don't save money to do charity, but to just enjoy luxury. That's all. So, but it is there in the genes. Now, the advent of Sri Ramakrishna is bringing back those qualities, bringing back those wonderful divine qualities into us by coming into contact with Sri Ramakrishna's life, coming into contact with Sri Ramakrishna's teachings. See here, Ramakrishna is so nicely cautioning all of us, and that has transformed the life of Ramchandra Datta. Therefore, Ramachandra Datta did not save his earnings, but he spent money freely for the good of others, especially for the poor, the needy, and the afflicted. He helped many students financially, even to the extent of providing free board and lodging in his own home. But Ramachandra Datta's main interest was in arranging kirtan, devotional singing, every evening in his house and feeding the participants, whoever might be there in the satsang, feeding them, taking care of them, arranging the sankirtan. So that was also a very important thing which Ramachandra Datta used to do. So here is a model for us, for the householders especially. Ramachandra Datta has been, that wonderful character has been shown to us, which we all of us have to follow. So by the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, Ramachandra Datta changed his life. He did not save his earnings at all. He spent money freely for the good of others. So you need not think that Swamiji is asking us to spend all our savings. No, you do your savings. You give it for your children, for your wife, for your husband, or whatever your family. But do not forget to do the service of the poor, the needy, and for the temple, and for the devotees, and for the service of the God. Because that is the only currency which you can convert now into punya or into the Bhagavad Pratyartha to please the Lord, which will protect us after our afterlife, after our death. That is the thing which will follow us. None of the thing which you accumulated, not even a single cent will follow you. So here, now, here and now, we have to start it. Charity, helping poor, helping the needy. No brood, no delay. Do not know when the death will come calling on anybody. We are seeing it every day during the pandemic, or any time we have seen how suddenly we have to face the death. Therefore, Ramachandra Datta did not save his earnings but spent money freely for the good of others, especially for the poor, the needy, and the afflicted. He helped many students financially, even to the extent of providing free board and lodging to his own in his own home. But Ramachandra's main interest was in arranging kirtan, satsang, devotional singing every evening in his home. Every evening, can you imagine that? He used to arrange it in his home, and feeding the participant in the satsang was his very happy pastime. See, many people have different hobbies and pastime. Because of the influence of Sri Ramakrishna, Ramachandra Datta has developed this wonderful habit. After a few months, Sri Ramakrishna said to Ramachandra Datta, "How is that you have not yet taken me to the new garden you have purchased for the holding?" Now, why did Sri Ramakrishna tell that? Spiritual life is not always smooth. Ramachandra Datta and devotees would become absorbed in their singing until late hours of the night. But this naturally caused much disturbance, and Ramachandra's neighbors would began to complain. So Ramachandra Datta then decided to buy a secluded garden house where you could hold kirtan and practice spiritual disciplines. When he informed Sri Ramakrishna of his intention, Sri Ramakrishna advised him. When Ramakrishna was asked, "What shall I do?" Ramakrishna told, "Buy such a solitary garden house that if 100 murders were committed there, no one would know it." Here, committing murder is not the intention, but that should be the extent of solitariness there, silence there. So, to give the superlative degree, how silent, how a special retreat center it should be. So Ramakrishna gave this piece of advice. Buy such a solitary garden house that if 100 murders were committed there, no one should know it. That means it should be so silent, it should be so solitary. Accordingly, in the middle of 1883, Ramachandra Datta purchased a garden house at Kankurgachi, an eastern suburb of Calcutta. Now it is in the midst of the town or the city. Everywhere you can see houses, but then it was a very solitary garden house. So that has been now given to Ramakrishna Mutt. It is under the Ramakrishna Mutt admission, Kankurgachi Garden House. So most of the time it is occupied by the presidents or the vice president, not the presidents. And it is just like a retreat, not just like it is a retreat center, it's a very sacred place. So even now you can go and see it is under the care of Sri Ramakrishna Mutt Mission. So there, even now, the lot of lectures, lot of social cultural activities, lot of bhajan, singing, kirtan, the tradition is being continued. So that garden house, Ramachandra Datta purchased in 1883, a house at Kankurgachi, an eastern suburb at Calcutta. After a few months, the master said to Ramachandra, "How is that you have not yet taken me to the new garden house you have purchased for holding kirtan? Let us go one day to your garden and see what is it like." Oh, Ramakrishna himself is telling, "I want to come to that place and see." And so, naturally you can feel how joyful Ramachandra Datta was. So, Ram was exuberant, became very happy. Immediately, he arranged everything for Sri Ramakrishna's visit. No delay at all. He arranged for Ramakrishna's visit to that place. On Wednesday, December 26, 1883, Master Mahashay M. Mahendranath Gupta, the recorder of Gospel. So in his Gospel, he recorded, Master Mahashay M. recorded in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Master to Manilal, sorry, Sri Ramakrishna, accompanied by Manilal Malik, Master Mahashay, that is Mahendranath Gupta Yam, and several others, devotees, were in a carriage on their way to Ramachandra's new garden house. So, in the carriage, the talk was going on. Master to Manila. In order to meditate on God, one should try to find, one should try to first think of Him as free from upadhis, limitations. God is beyond all upadhis, all the limitations. He is not bound. He is a free soul. He is beyond speech. He is beyond mind. But it is very difficult to achieve perfection in this form of meditation. But then there is the other easy way. What is that? So the first one, the first type of meditation Ramakrishna is teaching is, in order to meditate on God, one should try to first think of God as free from upadhis. Upadhis means limitations, superimpositions. So how should we think of God? God is beyond all limitations, upadhis. He is beyond speech and mind. But for ordinary mind, it is very, very difficult. That is for the super mind, the specialized mind. So it's very difficult to achieve perfection in this form of meditation. So now Ramakrishna is telling the easy method for all ordinary people like us. So now Ramakrishna is giving the easy way of meditation. Let us hear it in the words of Sri Ramakrishna itself. It will be wonderful. But it is easy to meditate on an incarnation. So to meditate on God, formless or even with form, no upadhis, no limitations, beyond speech, beyond mind. That is as Atma Swarupa, the Paramatman, the Parabrahma Swarupa. That's very good, but it's very, very difficult to achieve perfection in that. But it is easy to concentrate your mind while meditating on the incarnations, avatars. Ramakrishna is telling, but it is easy to meditate on an incarnation. God born as man is called incarnation. Truly, the Sanskrit word incarnation or avataram is avatarana. It comes from the word avatarana. Avataram is coming down to our level. God is at a very high level, is formless, he is attributeless, he is beyond speech, he is beyond mind, he is beyond all the limitation. But how can you understand him? How can you comprehend him? You cannot. So out of infinite compassion, God takes all the human limitation and he comes down as a human being, just like Ramachandra, Krishna, Parashurama, and now as Ramakrishna. So it's very easy to meditate on an incarnation. God born as man is incarnation. Yes, God in man. The body is a mere covering. Okay, now one way Ramakrishna is told, the first thing is meditating on incarnation. Yes, now the incarnation has come freshly as Ramakrishna, earlier as Krishna, earlier as Rama, earlier as Parashurama, Narasimha, as Mother Durga, all that thing we now celebrated Navaratri. She takes the different forms of Dashamahavidya, Navadurga, all that thing, easy to meditate. But there is one more way. Now that is also difficult for us to comprehend. Then what is that? The next one, God in man. God as man is incarnation, but there is another way easy to comprehend, and what is that? God in man. God is in every man. The highest manifestation of God is human being, man. Man, woman, everything, human being. So, God in man. Shivagnane Jiva Seva, seeing God in every human being. So now Ramakrishna is explaining how to see God in man. That is the easiest and that is the fastest way of achieving perfection, serving God in man. God in man. The body is mere covering, tells Sri Ramakrishna. It is like a lantern with a light burning inside. We used to see in the olden days when there was no electricity, no torch, no battery. Then we used to use the lantern lamp, the kerosene lamp. So in that lantern, Ramakrishna is giving the example of a lantern. He's telling it is like a lantern with a light burning inside. Or so God in man is just like the light burning inside a lantern. So God is there inside every human being. Or another example given by Sri Ramakrishna for us to understand how God exists in every human being is like a glass case in which one sees precious things. So some precious things have been displayed inside a glass case. So likewise, the more precious, the most precious, the highest precious God is present in every human being. So Ramakrishna has given a wonderful teaching now for all of us. Comprehending and meditating and perfecting in the meditation or thinking of God beyond limitation is very, very difficult. Yes, you can do it, but it's very difficult to achieve perfection. The easy way is to meditate on the avatara, the incarnation of God. That is God as man. God born as man. Yes, then there is another way, God in man. The body is mere covering. All the human being, they have all this character, all the different angry man, angry woman, bad character, villain, dirty, obnoxious, you don't like him, ugly, color, different color, are all just mere coverings, different characters which you don't like, you like some character. So they are all mere, the body and all other things are mere covering. So how is it? It is just like lantern with a light burning inside. The other example given by Sri Ramakrishna is like a glass case in which one sees precious things. The diamond or some other costly ornament is displayed inside a glass case. Like that, in every human being, the most precious Atman or God is present. So God in man. It's very easy to comprehend and serve. It's there for you. It's abstract. It's not abstract. The first one is very abstract. Meditating on the God without form, God without attributes, beyond limitations, beyond upadhis, beyond speech, beyond mind. It's very, very difficult to get perfection in that. But the easiest in between it is God as an incarnation. It's very easy. God born as man. Yes, another is God in man. So the God who has come as incarnation in the form of Sri Ramakrishna, to meditate on him and to follow his teachings and to do the Leela Dhyana, the playful life of the avatara, to think on it, meditation is very easy. And through that meditation, through that life of the incarnation is given many teachings. And follow that in our life. And what is that he has given? Here as incarnation, God in man. Ramakrishna is telling, the body is a mere covering. In all the human beings, the body is a mere covering. All the character, the color, all the other attributes are just mere covering. In reality, it is like a lantern with a light burning inside. The human body is just like the light inside is the God, Paramatman. or like a glass case in which one sees precious things. So, very important teaching how to meditate. Meditate on incarnation, meditate on God without form, God without attributes, or no adjuncts, no upadhis, is meditation with eyes closed. But this God in man is meditation with eyes open everywhere. You come into contact with your father, with your mother, with your wife, with your husband, with your children, with your neighbors, with your brother, with your sister, everywhere. God taking this human form is walking around you. He himself willfully has taken this form and walking around you. Neglect it. You don't treat them properly. You many times ill treat them too. But you go to the temple, forced to God to come do the pranapratishtha and the images and the photos and worship Him. Why? The real God is walking around you in the form of your mother and father and neighbors and the poor people. You neglect them. So that is the easiest path Ramakrishna tells, God in man. Arriving at the garden house of Ramachandra Datta, Sri Ramakrishna got out of the carriage and accompanied Ramachandra Datta and other devotees to the sacred Tulsi grove in that garden house or in that garden. Standing near it, Sri Ramakrishna said, "How nice." So now next time when you go to Calcutta, when you come to India, when you visit Calcutta, all of the devotees can visit this Kankurgachi because your memory is very fresh. Ramakrishna came to that. He went to the Tulsi grove in that garden and he is describing how nice is this place. So you can remember, you can meditate, Leela Dhyana meditation with your eyes open, you can see everywhere. That place Ramakrishna liked it, the Avatara has liked it. How nice. It's a fine place. You can easily meditate on God here. Sri Ramakrishna himself is told, you can easily meditate on God here in this place. Ramakrishna's word can never be untrue. He is a Satyavakya Paripalaka. Other than that, he is the Avatara, the Vishnu, Gadadhar Vishnu himself. Other than that, he has the Divine Mother Kali in his heart, always carrying that. So, whatever he tells has to be true. So now, remember all these things, keep it in your mind, write it down. When you go to India, visit Kankurgachi, take out that notes, what happened in Kankurgachi, all those things. Stay there, read that, remember that, bring out all those incidences, and then enjoy the meditation still more. So Ramakrishna standing there in the Tulsi grove, in that garden house of Ramachandra Datta in Kankurgachi, is telling, standing near the Tulsi grove, how nice. He said, it is a fine place, you can easily meditate on God here. Sri Ramakrishna sat down in the house which stood to the south of the lake, so that lake is still there. So Ramakrishna went into that house and sat down there. Ramachandra Datta offered Sri Ramakrishna a plate of fruits and sweets, which Sri Ramakrishna enjoyed with the devotees. After a short time, he went around the garden. So if you go to Kankurgachi, the foot dust of Sri Ramakrishna is everywhere in that Kankurgachi. So you too can walk and feel the presence of Sri Ramakrishna there. So after a short time, after taking the refreshment, fruits and sweets, which he enjoyed with the devotees, so after a short time, Ramakrishna went around the garden house. Now, Ramachandra Datta was so happy, Sri Ramakrishna visited that Kankurgachi garden house. In sacred memory of Sri Ramakrishna's visit to the garden, and because Sri Ramakrishna himself is mentioned that that place is an ideal place for meditation, Ramachandra Datta named the place as Yogodhyana. Udhyana is garden, yoga, the garden of yoga. Yogodhyana, garden for practicing yoga. So even now it's called Yogodhyana, Ramakrishna Yogodhyana. So Ramachandra Datta named it as, because Sri Ramakrishna, first of all, sacred memory of Sri Ramakrishna. Visit there to that place. And because Sri Ramakrishna had mentioned there in that garden that that particular garden was an ideal place for meditation. That's why Sri Ramchandra Datta named that place as Yogodhyana. Yoga Udhyana. Udhyana means garden. What is the Bhavartha or the translation? Garden for practicing yoga. Ramchandra Datta gave the mango tree which had been planted there. So he had planted mango trees there. And Ramakrishna has visited and touched the trees and seen the trees. So Ramchandra Datta gave the mango trees the name Ramakrishna Bhog. What is the meaning? Delight to Sri Ramakrishna. So the name of that that mango tree, he named it as Ramakrishna Bhog. Delight to Ramakrishna. And to the lake where Ramakrishna had washed his hands and feet, he gave the name Ramakrishna Kunda, the lake Kunda. So that is there. Even now you can, because Ramakrishna has washed his hands and legs there, that lake was named as Ramakrishna Kunda. In the northeast corner of the garden, Ramachandra Datta planted a Panchavati. You know, in Dakshineshwar, Ramakrishna himself had planted Panchavati, which is there given. The details of how to plant the Panchavati is given in the Skanda Purana. 5 trees have to be planted in different direction. So the Ashwatha Vriksha to the east, the Vata Vriksha, that is the fig tree. What is that fig? Banyan tree. Both Vata, Ashwatha and the Vata Vriksha or the banyan tree or the fig variety. Then towards the north is the Bilva tree, and there is the Ashoka tree. The Ashoka is the sacred plant of India. Now you see in Sri Lanka, Mother Sita was sitting in that Ashoka Vana, that Ashoka tree. Then the Amalaka, Indian gooseberry, not the other gooseberry. Western country they have another gooseberry. That's not the gooseberry. Indian gooseberry. That's called Amalaka. So these are the 5 trees planted in 5 different directions. So in the center of all these trees will be a place for meditation, like a hut or something. So that is called Panchavati. So all the trees should be planted on the circumference of a circle. So that is called Panchavati. Vata means trees, Pancha means 5. 5, they grew of 5 trees. So Ramchandra Datta planted a Panchavati, a grove of 5 trees at the master's suggestion. So Ramakrishna himself suggested to plant Panchavati. After the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, his relics Atma Rama were enshrined on the spot near the Tulsi Grove where Sri Ramakrishna had bowed down, where Ramakrishna had told that this is a wonderful place, it is fit for meditation, here one can easily remember God. So in that place he enshrined the relics of Sri Ramakrishna to spot where the Tulsi grew, where the Sri Ramakrishna had bowed down. So there now, if you go to that Kankurganchi garden house, you can find the temple. A temple was later erected there. Now if you go that exact place where the Tulsi grove was and where Sri Ramakrishna stood and told that it is a wonderful place for meditation, here you can think of God very easily. So there now stands the temple of Sri Ramakrishna. If you go there, you can visit all these places and enjoy Ramakrishna Yogodhyana or Kankurgach. A temple was later erected there. Even during his boyhood, Ramachandra Datta was strong, assertive, and manly. He was a leader in the local gymnasium, the theatre club, also he was a leader, and other social organizations too. And so the people respected him for his character and integrity. Knowing Sri Ramakrishna's faculty, knowing Sri Ramachandra Datta's faculty for leadership, Sri Ramakrishna named him or called him as the captain. And he also sometimes consulted with him. Because of these qualities, not only Sri Ramakrishna named him as the captain, but also he consulted him on various matters. Once, while Girish Chandra Ghosh, in a drunken state, humiliated Sri Ramakrishna with very filthy words, the devotees were very furious about Girish. They wanted to ban him or throw him out of the devotee circle. But when Sri Ramakrishna told Ramachandra Datta about it, Ramachandra Datta defended Girish Chandra Ghosh, suggesting to the master that Girish was like the serpent Kaliya or Kalinga Sarpa, who had nothing to offer Sri Ramakrishna but its venom. Where would the Kalinga Sarpa get Amrita or nectar to offer to Krishna? So when Krishna subdued that Kalinga Sarpa and was dancing on the hood of the Kalinga Sarpa, Kaliya, so it started spewing out poison. When Krishna asked, "What is this? You are spewing out poison." Then the snake told, "Oh Lord, what have you given me? You have not given me Amrita, nectar, you have given me poison. So I am offering that at your feet." So this example was given by wonderful Ramachandra Datta. He defended Girish Chandra Ghosh, suggesting to Sri Ramakrishna that Girish was like that serpent Kalinga or Kaliya, but nothing to offer Sri Ramakrishna but its venom. Immediately, Sri Ramakrishna forgot the affront and went with Sri Ramachandra Datta to Girish Chandra Ghosh's house to forgive him. So we have read that in the life of Girish Chandra Ghosh. We have already recently completed the life of Girish Chandra Ghosh. That we saw that recently. Ramachandra Datta was free and frank with Sri Ramakrishna, but he was also very outspoken, and you would get easily piqued. You know what is meant by piqued? Upset with little things. Once, Adar Sen arranged a recital of Chandi at his house in Calcutta and invited Sri Ramakrishna and many of the devotees. Somehow, Ramachandra Datta was not invited, he was overlooked. So, you know that Ramachandra Datta was very sensitive and he would get easily piqued. So now Ramachandra Datta became very upset when he heard about it that he was not invited. Adarlal Sen had arranged this wonderful party and he had overlooked him. So he was upset. That is called piqued. He became very upset when he heard about it and complained to Sri Ramakrishna. Now, all of us have this character. When somebody doesn't respect us, somebody doesn't give something to us, or somebody neglects us, or somebody doesn't talk to us, give prominence to us, we get upset. We are sensitive. So that is a sign of ego. We have ego in our heart. That is the sign. If you are egoless, you will give up this. Even though you may feel upset, then immediately you will give up this. So that character of ours is to be taken out. By this you have to understand. Now the advice of Sri Ramakrishna to Ramachandra Datta will be an eye-opener for all of us. So So if you get upset, if you get peaked like that, that is an indication of ego. We have this ego, so we have to give up that. That is not good for spiritual life. So now he got upset when other Lal Sen overlooked it, not invited him. It was not his mistake. There was some problem there. He couldn't invite him. But when he felt upset, peaked, and went to Ramakrishna and complained about it. So now the advice of Sri Ramakrishna will also serve as a teaching to all of us. So we have to follow that. So by that we can remove this portion. See, our ego manifests in different various ways. It has different faces. So this is one of the face. So now that can be taken out and we can wash it off from us. So let us see what Ramakrishna is to tell about this. Now, Other Lal Sen arranged a recital of Chandi at his house in Calcutta and invited Sri Ramakrishna and many of the devotees. Ramachandra Datta somehow was overlooked. He became very upset when he heard about it and complained it to Sri Ramakrishna. But Sri Ramakrishna replied, suppose he didn't invite you to the house. Why such a fuss? Why should you get upset? Suppose if he didn't invite or he overlooked it. You are not taken into account. Why should you get upset over it? What is there to be upset? Why should you create such a fuss about going to a place where the name of the Lord was sung? See, generally the English educated, the Western educated, the dress code, the invitation, and all these formalities will play a vital role there. But here Ramakrishna is telling, why such a fuss when you are going to the place of Lord? See here, it is the Lord reciter, the Chandi is being recited. Other Lal Sen has arranged. So why, suppose you are not invited, why should you create a fuss? What is there to go to the place of the Lord? You need not have any invitation because this is an opportunity to think of God. It is a great opportunity. So do not be upset over all these things. Then if you become upset, who is the loser? You are the loser. You will miss that opportunity of hearing that wonderful occasion. You will not get it again. It's very difficult to arrange such things. So the lesson is, when it is about God, when it is you're getting the grace of God by hearing such great things, do not wait for the invitation, whether you're invited or not. So don't be upset or fuss. Just go there. Though you may be invited, even when you go there, suppose somebody insults you and sends you out, or they will show you an improper place just to stay there, you need not be upset because you are going to hear about God. You have gone there to get things about God. So you should not be getting upset. So that is very important thing, because if you are ego, if you have this ego, or if you are egotistic, then all this problem will come. So when you want to get God, you have to forget all these things. So these words of Sri Ramakrishna will help us a lot. How? Let us see what Ramakrishna is telling. Sri Ramakrishna replied, suppose he didn't invite you to his house, why such a fuss about going to a place where the name of the Lord is sung? One may go unasked. Remember this advice of Ramakrishna. One may go unasked to participate in religious music, for a satsang, for a homa, for a havana, for puja, for the bhajans, for the singing of the name of the Lord. For other things, yes, you have to wait for the invitation. But for God's sake, when it is about God, you need not wait for the invitation. You can go even uninvited. So why such a fuss about going? Remember this teaching, wonderful teaching. Ramakrishna is telling, why such a fuss about going to the place where the name of the Lord was sung? One may go unasked. to participate in religious music or any religious program. One doesn't have to be invited. So remember it and also tell to everybody, let them understand this. The other aspect of getting upset over these things is our one face or one aspect of egotism or egoism. So we have to see, understand how our ego manifests. And these words of Sri Ramakrishna will help us to overcome such type of egotistic behavior of us. The master had a wonderful sense of humor. You know, Ramakrishna, there is a book itself, the story or the humor of Sri Ramakrishna. They have brought out a book itself. So if there is a book, then you can, in the real life, how much of humor Ramakrishna would bring it. Just to give an example, when Ramakrishna would crack jokes or tell, he used to imitate and he used to do the mimicry. The direct disciples like Narayan and all other people who would to come there, they were young boys, see they were youths at that time. They would laugh so much when Ramakrishna used to do the mimicry and tell the jokes. His humor was so good. They would not just laugh, the laughter would be so much that they couldn't contain the laughter. They would fall on the ground. So they want to stop laughing, but they can't. So they would catch hold of the stomach and roll on the ground with laughter. That would be the extent of the laughter and the humor, the imitation, the mimicry, the jokes of Sri Ramakrishna would make even the youths and the old people or anybody for that sake. Ramakrishna was an expert in telling jokes. Ramakrishna was expert in mimicry, not ordinary, expert imitating, imitation, mimicry, jokes. So they used to fall on the ground, catching hold of the stomach and laugh and laugh and roll on the ground. Master had a wonderful sense of humor, and he would sometimes remove the seriousness of a situation or the misunderstandings of the devotees through a joke or by teasing them. On one such occasion, Ramachandra Datta was trying to prove the superiority of Sri Ramakrishna in his presence. While Ramachandra Datta, with all his vigor, was denouncing the Brahma Samaj people, the master said to him, Ram, now tell me why my arm was hurt. Stand up and deliver a lecture on that. Everyone laughed. Another time, September 28, 1884, the master in a deep spiritual mood was talking to the devotees at Ramachandra's house. But Ramachandra Datta did not hear the talk because he was busy making arrangements to feed the devotees on the roof. When he finally came downstairs, the master asked him, Ram, where have you been? Sir, I was upstairs. Immediately, Sri Ramakrishna reminded him to be humble. Isn't it better to be downstairs, stay down below, than to be high up? Water accumulates in low land, but it flows down from a high mount. See, if you had stayed below now, you could have heard these wonderful teachings. It would have benefited you. You went high to the upstairs and you lost all the wonderful teachings which I gave. So through teachings, through humors, Ramakrishna would give wonderful teachings. So now we will stop the discussion here and we will continue in the next class. Until then, we will be recalling all these beautiful teachings, meditating, take up every one teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. See, Turiyanandaji Maharaj used to take up every verse of Bhagavad Gita, read it, find out the meaning of some bhashya, and take up one shloka, and used to meditate days together on one verse, the meaning of that, and get that wonderful teachings of Sri Krishna. Likewise, Ramakrishna is none other than the avatara, the same avatara Krishna now come as Ramakrishna. So take up all these teachings, go on meditating on that and connecting it into your life. Then you will get so many new things, new perspective of all the teachings. Write it down and enjoy that, meditate on that. You will really find so much of joy in that teaching. So until we come to study the life of Ramachandra Datta, and through which we'll be getting so many teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and so many beautiful teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. So we will meditate, think of it, day and day, repeatedly understand, try to understand, write down the notes on whatever we have studied, and we will enjoy until then. So we will stop the teachings and life of Sri Ramakrishna through Ramachandra Datta here. So now let us conclude with the prayer. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshah Sarvaygneshwaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat Harihi Om Tatsat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Namaste. Thank you. Om Namo Narayanaya.